Welcome to Driving the Line, the pursuit of safety, where we talk about the real issues out on the road, focus on safe driving, and learn industry best practices from your hosts Kenny Ray, Mike Bohan, and Jim Seibert, in the hopes that by driving the line, we get more drivers home safe and sound. This podcast was made possible by Marsh McLennan Agency.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Driving the Line. This is Kenny Ray, along with my co-host Mike Bohan and Jim Seibert. And I want to share some interesting news with y'all today, a bit of an announcement. But before I do that, I want to just refresh everybody's memory about our team. I'm down in Texas, a retired state trooper. Mike Bohan is in Missouri, formerly with Missouri DOT. And Jim Seibert is a retired U.S. Army officer, and he is our OSHA expert, works on the ag side of our business. And then we have we refer to them as the wizards behind the curtain, or the brains of this operation, Miss Erin and Miss Amanda, that do all the behind the scenes stuff for us. And one reason I bring that up, we're in our second year of doing these podcasts, and we get such neat affirmation and feedback from so many of our listeners, and we're grateful for that. We just want y'all to know how much we enjoy doing this, but we thrive on feedback we get when people tell us, hey, it makes a difference. What y'all are doing counts. It's important. And we're grateful for those of you that have reached out and provided that sort of feedback and that affirmation and the confirmation that what we're doing is important. We're adding a new team member. Effective today, and I'm going to introduce him to you. He's coming on board as a work colleague of ours, and he's a safety professional in his own right, and he's going to be a part of our podcast team as well, and that is Mr. Barry Harrison. And I want to tell you a little bit about Barry, and then he's actually going to join us today on the podcast. It'll be his very first time, and he's got an amazing personality. Y'all are going to love him. He is just a super, super guy. Barry has been the safety director of one of our clients, and he and I have actually had the privilege of working together for about the past 6 years. Barry has a deep and broad experience base in the trucking industry. He's a bright guy. He's got a psychology degree from college, and he's a graduate of Oklahoma State University. But Barry has been a driver. He's going to be the only member of our team that actually still holds a Class A CDL. So he has sat in the seat of a truck and hauled even oversized loads, over-dimensioned loads, heavy loads up and down the highways of our state. He has served in the role of a CEO. He has managed a very successful trucking company. He has worn the hat of a safety director. He's been involved in recruiting and retaining drivers. He trains drivers. There is no part of our industry that Barry has not had experience in, and we are tickled to death to bring him on as part of our team. He is married, got a precious family. He's a husband, a dad, active in his community, and just is an all-around good guy. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you Mr. Barry Harrison, and then he and I and Mike and Jim are just going to simply have a conversation for y'all to get to know him. And I want to add one last thing, and then Barry, I'm going to yield to you, brother. We are going to start. We have reached the point with the podcast that we're all comfortable in our skin. We are grown men and women that put this thing together for y'all, and we check our egos at the door. And there's going to be times moving forward that all four of us will be on here, just like we are right now, discussing some topic related to truck safety. There'll be other times where it just may be one of us on here conducting a guest interview of somebody. We may have a guest on, and just one of us sit down with that guest and conduct an interview on some particular topic. There may be times where you get two of us on here. There may be times when there's three of us. The point is, our cast in the future, all four of us will remain committed and attached and actively involved in driving the line. But on any given episode, you may have just one of us, or you may have all four of us on here. But always the two brains behind the operation will keep it together for us and make sure that what we share with you is applicable as it's coming out. So without further ado, my brother, my friend, and now my coworker, Mr. Barry Harrison, welcome to Driving the Line.
Well, Kenny, thank you so much for that just warm welcome. It's very indicative of getting to come to work for a company such as Marsh McLennan Agency. That's the exact welcome that I felt from everyone I've talked to from day one. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to get out there and work with some clients. I think Kenny did an excellent job overviewing my professional career. And one thing I wanted to add to that was just how much passion I have for this industry and how it just, honestly, the trucking just gets in your blood. As he mentioned, I started as a truck driver, eventually hauling oversized loads. So that's where a lot of my big passion lies. I love the oversized part of our industry, but that's not to say that I don't have the good hazmat endorsement on my CDL as well. I learned early in my career, the more endorsements I had, the better shot I had of sticking with jobs. So I went out and took every test I could and was as qualified as I felt I could be at the time. And then moving into the safety realm, I quickly chased as many qualifications as I could. And just as Kenny mentioned too, I always take a very humble approach to anything I do, especially in my professional career, because I'm a true believer that I've always got to remain a student and I need to learn something new every day. And I believe that anyone I come in contact with, I've got the opportunity to learn something. So that being said, I'm so excited to be a member of the podcast team. And I'm just truly honored and just so lucky to be here.
And again, Barry, great. So tickled to death to have you on. I know you and Jim have already started collaborating a little bit on some work. Y'all have already gone out and seen some clients together, and y'all have worked on a couple of projects together. So, Jim, what is your impression of working with Mr. Harrison?
Well, he's kind of got some reddish hair. And so that brings up some trust issues for me starting off. But number two, he's also left-handed, which I don't know if that makes a big difference or not. But I had the pleasure of golfing with him once. He didn't let me win, even though I could have just trounced him. He did not let me win. And I think that shows that he's trustworthy. All right. So I got to work with Barry in his previous position, previous company, and just a man of integrity, let alone the amount of character that he shares with you daily. I'm really looking forward to it. We get along great. We're going to have a lot of opportunities for overlap while I'm still learning the ropes of the trucking industry and all my ag companies. And he's the kind of guy that's going to be able to slip in and really help me, because he's going to speak effectively. I mean, he's a country kid. He's going to be able to come in and speak the language, not only for my customers, but communicate with me on, these are the things, Jim, you need to improve upon. So I love the challenging aspect that he's going to bring to the team. And I'm not just blowing sunshine and fairy dust all over this, Barry, but I love to hear how active and involved you are in your local community and just young family. Really happy to have you on. I'm going to put you right on the spot because that's what friends do. Tell me how much you're looking forward to working with me, Barry.
No pressure there.
I would say it's enough to let you win at golf. I mean, if that's not telling, I don't know what is, fellas.
And I want to add, Mike, before you come on, I want to add, Barry is centrally located in our area. He's in the great state of Oklahoma. He and Jim both are located in Oklahoma. And that provides some real advantages for our team. It's not too far for him to come south down to Texas and work with me on some projects. He and Jim are actually in fairly close proximity to each other and are going to be teaming up on a lot of projects. And he's far enough north in Oklahoma that Mike covers the great state of Kansas for us out of his station in Missouri, and there's going to be times where that we're collaborating out in the field. So I tell you that because a lot of our listeners are our clients, and so when we show up, sometimes Barry's going to be with us. Part of that's just him getting out and meeting our clients, and the other part is he is a tremendous asset to us because of that broad trucking background he has. And again, we are just tickled to death. Our HR department and the folks that were involved in interviewing and hiring him just literally hit it out of the park. And he's going to be an asset to us here on the podcast, but much more so in our actual day-to-day jobs that we do every day.
Well, I'll tell you guys this: I'm not letting either one of you two beat me at golf. Now, I am not saying you're not going to beat me, because you will. I'm just not going to let you do it. I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to fold for you to make you feel good. You're just going to beat me because I'm not very good. I'm competitive enough, though. I'd never let you win, but
it's the way it should be.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay. All right. Well, Barry, I love that you're a family man. I feel like my greatest calling in life is being a husband and a dad. And I want to hear about your family a little bit. I mean, you don't have to go into specific details, but just talk about your family a little bit.
Yeah. So be married 9 years last month. And then I've got 2 young girls. Harper Grace is 8 and Barry Elizabeth is 3. And Mike, just like you said, you know, every day we want to wake up, we want to have a reason to go to work. And especially in this safety field, you know, we think a lot about trucks rolling up and down the road. We want them to be as safe as possible. And, you know, it's the wife and kids that's my reason to get up every morning and try to improve on this industry. We're in the heat of all kinds of different activities right now. Little league softball to soccer, you name it. So we're traveling quite a bit. So again, it goes back to that why. And I think we all have to have a why. Why do we get up in the morning? Why do we want to make things safer? Why do we want to make things better? And for me, it goes back to that family.
Yeah, and I look at it like, I mean, I could have had the same exact answer there. I get up in the morning. That's why I do what I do. I've got pictures of my kids and their significant others and my wife. I'm like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And over the course of my career, now I'm seeing, well, we're all family, man, on this podcast. And it's like, my family's grown because this is my family. Like, we've got family in trucking now too. We may not be blood, but we got family. And I think that's cool as well as, you know, just in past positions I've had and now with our clients here at MMA, it's like, this is cool. This is something that's more than just a working relationship. This is family. And Kenny, I know you mentioned that time you came up here a while back. You came up to Missouri and spoke at one of our trucking association meetings, and you mentioned it's like it just felt like family, just welcome. And I feel the same way when I go. You know, I come down to Texas, or I go out to Kansas, or I meet. You know, may not be a client of ours, but this industry, it's like we're just family. It's just cool.
Absolutely, it is. And Barry, you have a little unique perspective coming on board with us now as an employee because formerly you were a safety director for one of our very, very good clients. And we make a point on the podcast. We don't ever mention brand names or out of respect for our clients, but you were a safety director for a client that we served for many, many years. And so you and I and you and Jim, we had the opportunity to work together when you were still on that side wearing the hat of a safety director of a very successful trucking company in Oklahoma. And now you're over on this side with the blessing of your former owner that you and he are very, very good friends. And he saw this as an opportunity for your professional development. And we're grateful that was a smooth transition. But now that you're over on this side and thinking back about the relationships that you had with us as your insurance broker, you know, when you were still wearing that hat of a safety director, how does that perspective, and I know a little bit of this is speculative, but how does that perspective, do you think, is going to help you in the future as you go into clients now on this side of the table as a member of their team as part of their insurance brokerage? how does that perspective of having worked with our company for so many years before you actually became an employee, how does that, what does that do to the lens you see the world through?
That's an excellent question, and I think it's one of the main reasons why I was compelled to pursue this position. You know, when I think back, especially early on in my career, coming out of the driver's seat, while I had a somewhat of an understanding of some of the regulations, and hopefully once I get out in front of some customers, I can really get into a lot of those funny stories that I have early on in my driving career, just from lack of knowledge. But anyway, I say that to say it's a lot for me to be able to reassure people who are new to the industry, or people who aren't adept in some of the changes that come as quickly as others, right? For me, Kenny, a lot of times was assurance, and being able to call someone and just make sure that what I was doing was correct. I always tried to call with some kind of solution in place already, kind of like we've talked, or like you guys have talked in the past on this podcast. Do your research first and then reach out, because you're going to have a pretty good idea. And then what these guys would do for me was just reassure that, yes, you've got the correct answer. Or if I didn't know where to look, they knew where to tell me to go, and they could give me the quick answer. I know a lot of times when I would call, it would be situations that they were new, and they weren't always all that fun. But again, that reassurance for me was huge, and just having the opportunity to give that back to some of these clients, and develop those relationships like I've developed with you all. That's really what made me want to run just head first into this position.
Yeah. And, I don't think any of us at this point can really fully appreciate, no matter how much we try to envision the future in our mind, I don't think any of us really are going to be able to appreciate the profound impact that your past experience in this industry is going to have on our clients. I mean, just me sitting here right now thinking, I've got a couple of clients that are heavy haul, and I go and do their safety meetings for their drivers. And I guarantee you, the next time I'm scheduled to do one, you're going to be there, because you're going to relate to those drivers in a way that I can't. I mean, I've got one in Texas that they haul these big concrete beams that the road departments use to build bridges, and some of them are, the rig's 120 foot long, weighs almost 300,000 pounds. And, I can't even wrap my mind around that. And you've been there. And so those drivers operate in a different world. They've got escorts. Some of them have pusher trucks on the back of the truck. And, it's a totally different world. So just your past heavy haul experience is going to be phenomenal. And that personality you have, you're just going there. I just know our clients are just going to come to love you. And I know the listeners on our podcast will as well. You just, you're happy all the time. I don't mean you're not serious. You're serious when you need to be, but you're one of the most upbeat and positive people I've ever been around. And that's just going to be a blessing for all of us. And I just can't tell you how grateful I am that you said yes when the job offer was made, and how ecstatic we are to actually have you on board. It's been a long process. We started, back in January of this year, and here we are just now, in August of this year, introducing you to our podcast audience. So over the years that you and I have worked together, one of the things that we have done together most often are mock audits. I have been into your office probably close to 10 times over the past 6 years. And people may say, why do they get that many mock audits? Well, that's actually very indicative of a very proactive trucking company. Our very best clients often ask us, they'll say, hey, I want you to come in twice a year. You either come in the spring and the fall, or you come in the summer and the winter, and we just want a checkup. We just want an outside set of eyes looking at what we're doing. So, Barry, you and I have sat down many times, and I've done a mock audit for you, with you being the recipient. Now, how does that experience of you having received mock audits How do you foresee that playing now as you go in and you're going to be the one walking into a company? And understand this, because we work for our clients, you're going to be there with them having plenty of notice. In fact, most of the time they're going to ask you, they're going to call you and say, Barry, would you come and do a mock audit? How do you think your perspective of having been on the recipient end of so many of our mock audits is going to help you or give you a perspective as you go in now and are the one conducting the mock audits?
Again, great question, Kenny. I think for me, one of the biggest things is going in there and again building a little rapport with that carrier, and then knowing a few of the blind spots, and really understanding, gathering a good understanding, I should say, of what the operation is, and tying that back to the compliance side of it as well, and learning what their customer needs are and things of that nature. I know that you said that, you did come in and you gave us mock audits several times. And again, thank you for that saying that that's indicative of a good customer, because that's one of the reasons why I always like to call you once, twice a year, was because you get so kind of siloed into what you're doing day to day. Sometimes you form these, what I like to call blind spots in your compliance, because you get into that just kind of routine of your day to day. And it's always good to have that outside perspective come in. So, to answer your question again, it's having a good working knowledge of where those blind spots can be formed. And just giving the client a good heads up on that. Just say, hey, I know that you're busy in your day to day, but I want to just check to see how you're doing here on these things that can sometimes not actually be forgotten, but just not be prioritized all the time.
When you mentioned blind spots, one of the very first, very early on podcasts we did, we talked about blind spots, and Jim Seibert made so many applicable comments about, so many times people have blind spots and they don't even, that's why they're called blind spots. They have them and they don't even realize they have them, and it's one reason that, and an audit is coming in and looking at the regulatory framework of the company. And when we do them for our clients, I like to take, and you've heard me say this, there's no spanking at the end. And so I think it's interesting that you made the observation that one thing our mock audits do is help reveal blind spots for these motor carriers. And this because you've received our mock audits. They're never confrontational in nature. They're always have one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to benefit our client. It's always for their benefit, because you don't know what to fix if you don't realize something's broken. And so
absolutely,
that's what our mock. So I'm tickled to death that it reminded you of blind spots.
Well, and to add to that one more time, I actually went through an FMCSA DOT audit in 2020, and you had conducted a couple mock audits the year previous to that, and I could speak to that was excellent preparation, and it's similar to me to a roadside inspection for a driver. If you've never been through it, if you don't know what that process looks like at all, it is very daunting. But if you've had some practice, where Kenny said you're not going to get spanked at the end, I'm telling you, it can really set you up for success if they do come in and perform the actual audit.
Barry, building off you being a previous driver and safety director, and this term of blind spots that you've heard us say on the podcast, when you approach in an audit, what does your experience as the driver, what do you think your experience and going through this audit process, how do you think your approach is going to assist you and assist the company in directing the driver's actions on the road, or the maintenance professional that's turning the wrenches and doing the work back at the shop? Do you think that you're going to be able to find or expose potential skeletons in the closet or blind spots simply because you used to turn the wheels?
Yeah, Jim, that's an excellent question. And it goes back to me. You're absolutely right. The first and foremost thing that I've understood better than anyone in a safety program is, it's buy-in from the top down, and that's one thing that you have to have. And to take that a step further, sometimes I think, everybody thinks the top down is the pyramid, the ownership's always the top. In a lot of ways, to me, that the driver, the boots on the ground, if you will, that mechanic, that tech, it almost needs to be the opposite, right? We've got to create these processes. We've got to get that buy-in from everyone. And when you come up with these safety procedures and things like that, we've got to have those honest conversations with these drivers to see what that process looks like each time, right? Everybody does a pre-trip inspection that looks very similar, right? But everybody has formed their own habit, if you will. So if you're going to procedure that out, you want to get as many of those drivers to actually help out with that process, because there's more than one way to skin a cat every time, right? We all know that. And so to create that buy-in, that's where my perspective completely changed once I came out of the seat and furthered my education in the safety realm and got a better understanding of it. It was, well, you can write every procedure and policy you want, but until you've got drivers that are really wanting to buy in and be safe and realize what that reason is why they're out there on the road, right? We're all usually supporting someone at home, wife, kids, what have you, right? We've got to find their passion and why they're doing it. And, that's, I can't say it enough. That's one thing that I've just fallen in love with this industry is it is full of so many just passionate people that want to be safe and want to do our jobs well and want to be the true professionals that we all can be. And that's, the best example of that is our professional drivers that are out there on the road every day doing it.
Yeah, well said, my friend. Yeah, you are absolutely going to be an asset to this organization. So much so. We're just tickled to death to have you. All right. So again, moving forward, y'all, our audience, y'all are going to be hearing different configurations of our team. We'll be drawing on Barry's expertise. Now a lot of the times, Mike and I will talk about regulatory aspects of safety because that's our background. We both came out of a regulatory background, and Jim a lot of times brings in either military examples or agricultural examples. And some of you may wonder, why do y'all got an ag guy on there? Well, for two reasons. Number one, he's an OSHA expert, and Mike and I harp on this all the time. So many trucking companies have no idea that they're regulated by OSHA, and they are. If you didn't hear me, listen, trucking companies, you are regulated by OSHA. And we've got a resident OSHA expert on our team. But second, Jim takes care of all of our clients that are in the agricultural sector. He, like Barry, is a graduate of Oklahoma State University, has an agronomy degree. But so many of Jim's clients that are in the ag sector, guess what? They operate trucks, and a lot of them haul hazmat. So we've talked about this before. A lot of Jim's clients would say, well, I'm a co-op, or I'm a farm supply dealership, or I'm this. But I promise you, USDOT looks at them as a trucking company. They've got a USDOT number, and that makes them fair game for the U.S. Department of Transportation. So that's the makeup of our team. And again, now we've got a guy that actually, in his billfold, he carries a Class A CDL with all the endorsements. Barry, you said, do you have a passenger endorsement? Can you drive a bus?
So it's funny you say that, because that's one of the things that I'm probably going to get here in the next few months, just to have it. Now I don't ever plan on using it, but I'm going to get it to have it.
Yeah, either your church or I know in the past you've been on the school board, your local school. They may call you one morning and say, "Hey, our bus driver's sick. We need you to drive a bunch of kids on a field trip." So
we need you to take the football team to the game Friday.
There you go.
That's it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, Mike Bohan, Jim Seibert, Barry Harrison now, and Miss Erin and Miss Amanda. We want to thank y'all for being what we call faithful listeners. So many of y'all listen to us every other week when a new episode comes out, and we do not take that for granted. We are grateful to you, and we're very, very appreciative. It humbles us to no end when we hear from our listeners and y'all say, hey, something you said was really important. That applied in my world. Thank you for saying that. Even just little comments, we are very, very grateful for those. We're always looking for podcast ideas. If you've got either an idea that you think a topic you think we ought to cover, if it deals with trucking and or safety, we definitely will take a look at it. We would be honored to do that. So here we are in August of 2024. You know, the end of the year is just around the corner. And we look forward to continuing these podcasts. And we've got some exciting things coming up over the next year. Going to be some neat interviews, some neat kind of structure things that we do with the podcast. But always, the focus will always be on trucking and safety. That is our wheelhouse, and we won't deviate far from that ever. So until next time, again, this is Kenny Ray on behalf of the team. And we appreciate you joining us on this episode of Driving the Line. And y'all be safe out there. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Driving the Line, the Pursuit of Safety. We hope you enjoyed our discussion, and thank you for listening. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Driving the Line, the Pursuit of Safety on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other app you're using. You can also follow Marsh McLennan Agency on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, thanks again for listening. Drive safely, everyone.